This little device has basically become part of my body. It's always at hand and I never leave my flat without it. Do you also use your smartphone more than you'd like? Then stay tuned, because digital detox is today's topic on Shift. Around the world, people were spending an average of 3.5 hours on their phones per day. And that was before coronavirus. During the first month of the pandemic, the global average shot up 70%. At the top of the list are the Philippines. Average daily phone use there is over 5 hours. What effect does using our phones so much have on us? Many people, and I'm definitely one of them, feel permanently pressured to be digitally connected. One solution is a digital detox. But is that even possible in 2021? I gave it a go. The first challenge of the day is removing the SIM card from my phone and turning the Wi-Fi off. It gives me an uncomfortable feeling. On a normal day, I would now read the news on this or briefly check Twitter or Instagram. Can't do that anymore, so I read the newspaper instead. Of course, the paper doesn't have the very latest headlines. Like many people, I normally listen to music or podcasts on my way to work. A projected 620 million people across the world are streaming music regularly in 2021. With that option not available to me today, my old Walkman gets a chance to shine. During the pandemic, I've been opting for car sharing to get to work. By 2025, there will be an estimated 36 million car-sharing users in the world. But the service won't work unless you've got the right app and a stable internet connection. So I'm taking the tram. When does the next one leave? This doesn't help me today. And no Google Maps for me either. The app has over 1 billion active monthly users. Luckily, public transport information is still available on good old paper. 5 minutes. Great. At least that gives me time to gather my change. I've got just the right amount. I'm used to buying tickets on an app. I'm already getting withdrawal symptoms. The average user checks their phone 58 times a day. I have the feeling of getting to work completely unprepared. Normally, I would have already checked my emails, I would have an overview of the current news situation, and let's not get into whether that's a good thing, but I'm working more and more on the go. I'm almost always reachable, and to be honest, I expect the same of my colleagues. And those were just the first 2 hours of the day. During the pandemic, my phone also became my fitness coach, meditation guide, shopping center, and how I spoke with friends and family. Is that likely to change post-pandemic? I doubt it. One reason we find it so hard to put down our phones is that most apps are designed to keep us glued, a quality the tech industry calls stickiness.
Smartphone apps are supposed to be fun, but they're also designed to keep you glued to the screen. That's why app developers have started incorporating reward systems. Like buttons, push notifications, and infinite scroll on news and social media feeds keep you hungry for more, making the apps sticky. This is useful for developers because the longer users stay stuck on an app, the more money developers make, through in-app purchases in games, for example, or by collecting data on users' behavior, which can be sold. Smartphone designers also benefit from high user screen time. The more user data they have, the more they can mold their devices to suit their customers' needs.
It's really hard to resist the psychological tricks developers use, but can you actually be addicted to your phone and apps? Here's what experts say.
Smartphones beep, vibrate, and light up. They constantly draw our attention and tempt us into multitasking. But sensory overload can overactivate our brain, which triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol. These negatively impact our performance and, in the long run, our bodies.
Your heart starts beating faster, you start sweating, and your blood circulation also increases, and more blood flows to your muscles. When you have this type of stress response, but while you're sitting with your smartphone in hand, then all the energy in your body isn't used as it was intended to be. So instead, you try to regulate it in a different way. And that can lead to, for example, increased appetite and you eating more than is healthy.
As our phones increase our stress levels, our prefrontal cortex becomes overloaded. An overtaxed prefrontal cortex can result in concentration loss and diminished logical thinking. What's more, many apps are addictive, especially social media. Whenever someone likes or comments on one of our posts or photographs, our brain releases a small dopamine dose.
What happens is that those parts of the brain that deal with rewards are quickly activated, especially in the beginning. After a while, this positive effect starts to get smaller and smaller so that you form a habit. The positive feelings aren't really there any longer. But when you don't follow the habit, you feel bad. That's how an addiction settles in.
According to a study by the University of Heidelberg, addictive use of smartphones can decrease activity in certain areas of our brain and even make parts shrink. These negative effects are similar to the impact of drug addiction. Excessive use of smartphones can also lead to withdrawal-like symptoms, such as anxiety and problems concentrating or sleeping. The good news is the human brain is an organ that changes throughout our lifetimes. Experts believe the negative effects smartphones have on our brains can be reversed by more conscious use.
So the keywords are conscious and aware use. I definitely wouldn't want to give up my phone because it really does help me in my daily life and gives me instant access to information.
On the other hand, in excess, this can cause stress, the so-called FOMO, or fear of missing out. This is now recognized as a real phenomenon, the psychological effects of which have been well researched, and it can lead to chronic stress.
You can check your digital stress levels on newer phone models. Google has the app Digital Wellbeing and Apple has Screen Time. Both analyze phone use. For example, I spent nearly 5 hours on my phone yesterday, though around 74 minutes were for work. I unlocked my phone 109 times and got 66 messages, mostly on Microsoft Teams. So is that okay or is it too long? Let's not forget these well-meaning apps are now further increasing my screen time. What can I do to avoid overusing my phone? Here are some tips from experts.
The first step, especially with behavioral addiction, is to find out exactly which apps I use on my smartphone or online, and when, for how long, how frequently, and at what time of the day. Keep a record of this, and every time you look at your phone, note it down. What did I just do? Why did I do it? And how long did it take me? Because much of this happens unconsciously.
But let's face it, who's patient enough to keep a record of their entire phone use? Ironically, apps like Screen Time could help.
Next, you'd try to delete the apps that are causing the addiction. Usually it won't be all of your apps, and they'll have different levels of addictiveness. This depends on factors like the prevalence of social feedback and rewards. Then the goal would be to abstain from those, while learning how to use the internet and smartphone in a healthy way.
If it's too hard to delete some of your favorite apps, you can always try deactivating them first. That will help you get used to being on them less.
One very important aspect is what you do with the time. I've decided I want to put my phone down and use it less. Just putting it down generally doesn't work so well. But if you say, instead of using my phone tonight, I'm going to do this concrete plan, maybe even a plan for the week, that works well for most people.
Instead of spending hours on social media during Corona, you could go outside and leave your phone at home. A walk in the fresh air is a great way to recover from infinite scrolls, liking and sharing.
A timer was what helped me moderate my social media consumption. It automatically closes the apps after a pre-selected time. You can reopen them, but the timer helps build your awareness of how much time you're wasting on Instagram and co. If you're looking to do a full digital detox and have some spare cash, you can book a holiday in a smartphone-free camp or yoga retreat.
Yoga instructor Inke Schäner regularly takes conscious breaks from connectivity.
I often long for how it felt when I was a teenager, when it was normal to make a plan in advance and stick to it, rather than constantly changing it by text.
Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok and co are all designed to be tempting and addictive. Now you can practice abstaining from them on specially designed yoga retreats. Digital detoxes have become a successful business model. Ironically, you find most offers online with thousands of reviews on social media. It's easier to stay offline as a group, like here in Camp Breakout, where you don't bring your smartphone or computer. Of course, this isn't realistic for our normal day-to-day routines.
A healthy digital future will be one in which we are in control of our devices, where we are in charge. Meaning the devices don't have power over us, and we use them in clever ways.
3 days of media abstinence here cost around €300. For those truly addicted to social media, the camp cannot replace proper therapy, but it does provide a setting to go offline and switch off.
Almost 5 billion people don't have or use a social media account, and over 4 billion don't have a smartphone. What about you? Do you use your phone more than you'd like? Do you see the value in offline time, or is digital detox nonsense? Let us know on Facebook, YouTube, or even in a letter. Bye, and see you next time.